continue to support it because I believe it as an idea, it makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
But I don't envy you for hammering out the details. I mean, it must be a nightmare. Yeah.
We are running slightly out of time, and actually, just before we just maybe conclude, any questions for the audience before we go for the final conclusions? Please.
Yes, my name is Fabien Villemin from the Egmont Institute. I have a question regarding the creation of a capital market union, because you mentioned that we need unanimity at the Council. My question is...
Unanimity for the Council conclusion. That was my point. Yeah. When it comes to regulation, you usually have the qualified majority, which is less ambitious instead of everybody, and they will agree on this.
And
that was my point.
So the question is, do you really think that the UK will accept the draft? And
yes.
Do you think that...
I'm optimist.
If you're optimistic, because my question was with the negotiation, time for negotiation, and maybe we can imagine a capital market union at Eurozone level, if it's not possible at 28. And what do you think about that? Thank you.
Please. I think I have to be honest. I'm positive because I have, let's say, a certain advantage of having listened to the British representation in the Coreper and have agreed to the text. So it's hard for the minister. I mean, he still has the liberty to do this. So on next Tuesday to dispute a couple of paragraphs or wordings, where if I were a Brit, I would change slightly some wording, but not the substance. On a capital market union for the 19th, so for the monetary union, I think there is no risk. Basically, it's although the opposite side. I mean, the Brits, if they subscribe to it on Tuesday, it's based the concept capital market union for 28. They are more concerned about all these activities that happen in the 19th, within the 19th, that could or would have an impact on the outs, in particular on London. So there's the concern, and we are waiting for the letter of Cameron next week and see what he wants and what he is requesting and see how we are going to respond to this. But on that part, because, I mean, this is why I mentioned the 50 years period. I mean, we have this nice little label, Capital Market Union, but in fact, what is it? It's basically the internal market for financial services. That's it, basically. And I have never heard a British representative disputing this, he wants to be carved out or whatever it is. I think there is a little risk as long as we do this properly, step by step and gradually. But you will be right to basically speculate about what the whole discussion on Brexit could it impact on CMU. I don't have a glass bowl. I don't know what's going to happen over the next couple of months. I would say yes, probably there is a certain risk at a certain moment that we may delay a process or even have a full stop because there's uncertainty. I don't know. I have no clue about this. But I would not exclude it by definition. I would not say there's strong enthusiasm because, as I said, and Markus said this right from the beginning, the devil's in the detail. Because one thing is to agree on the political statement. It's the thrust of the activity. We support the Commission proposal. It's the right direction. The other thing is once we have to deal with each and every regulation, with the prospective directive and all these things, and it comes to nitty-gritty details, then the discussion among member states starts. And there is the problem. But I am a professional optimist. That's why I'm working in the Council Secretariat. And I hear these kind of, let's say, slight pessimism about it's too many people around the table. And, somebody should say that's the way forward. It will never happen in Europe, I promise to you. It will never happen. And I'm happy about this, because it's my job to help these guys to find something. So, no, but seriously, politically, I would say, if you start something like, say, well, I need a dominant player. I mean, these gentlemen certainly have in mind a benevolent dictator who knows the truth, who knows where to go to, and stops this kind of fiddling around with details. You would lose legitimacy. These complex discussions, and they may be boring and repetitive, and they create legitimacy over time. This is completely misunderstood. I can understand bankers. They're sitting there. Why do they have this so complicated? Why is regulation inconsistent? Yes, it's inconsistent. We had to hammer out a couple of things within a month. I've never seen. When I told my boss the BRRD regulation, which was foreseen to hammer out in 6 months, and I told him, oh, this is critical. I said, Carsten, shut up. We have to do it. And he was right, and we managed these things in 6 months. Did we hammer out the perfect BRRD regulation? By definition, I said right from the start, we will never do so. If we would do so, I would be underpaid. You have to pay much more money if I do the perfect legislation within 6 months of a complicated thing like this. I would a Bank Regulation and Recovery Directive.
Thank you.
I'm sorry
I thought you would know. I thought you would know.
It was again.
I thought there was the Brussels acronym disease again. No, but this, I mean, it's
Carsten,
inconsistent to some
we
extent.
run out of
I would
time.
stop in a minute. So, but I have to lobby for it. I have to lobby for it because I always enter in this discussion about it's too complex and too long. It creates the only mechanism we know among 28 member states that creates sufficient legitimacy. It's the only process. If anybody would have a smart proposal how to change this up to the heads of states and government, we would happily welcome this proposal. We have tested many, many things, but we need all member states on board, and we want all member states on board. We have seen so many discussions where we had single member states basically overruled already in the Council, where the chairman came to us and said, well, I am not going to overrule an individual country. I want them on board. It's courageous. And we do it, and that's time-consuming. I can understand the frustration in the outside world, but we try our best. Thank you, Mark. I'm sorry.
So we ran out of time. I would invite all the panelists except Carsten, you had your monologue, to make a closing remarks, like what will be the recommendations to the ministers maybe on CMU, and what's your take on the whole? Just briefly, not like Carsten's monologue, please.
I think the
conclusion
is the only one.
Okay, so
We're in good hands. The future is bright.
thanks. Carsten, you can have a short shot.
Thank you.
Okay.
I don't know.
Fine.
I've polarized enough, I think.
No, but I mean, very briefly, I mean what I said at the beginning. Recommendations implementation. I think we have a good set of proposals here now, and now we need to implement it and to go forward. And at the same time, of course, there is recommendations for the European level, but there's also recommendations for the national legislator not to do things which go in the opposite direction. Meanwhile, I mean, if I think about my home country. They had the good idea that dividends should be taxed higher than passbooks. Okay. Well, this is not exactly the way how you improve capital markets. So let's stop doing the wrong things, and let's not be negative. I mean, let me finish on a positive tone, and let me repeat what I said at the beginning. Of course, this is just an action plan. This is a work program for the Capital Markets Union. You were right. This is the single market for financial services overall, but it's a very good piece of proposal, one of the best which came from the Commission in the last years, and this is a good start. And now we need to translate it into action.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think, as I said, the idea is good. My wish for the future is keep it simple and keep the eye on the ball that it really creates economic benefit.
Okay. Ľuboš?
Just one point. Remember all the recent meetings that finance ministers had about Greece? All these endless nights, all these weekends. That could have been avoided if we had more developed capital markets. Think about the United States, the city of Detroit, a big city goes under, defaults on its debt. Are there any long nights of meetings? No, nothing. Why? Because the debt of Detroit is held in the hands of many different people, many funds. There are developed capital markets. That's very different from the world we have here, where Greek sovereign debt is held by Greek banks. So if you